have more information for you all to expand on, but if we don't cover everything in detail, which we certainly don't have time for 3 different products, I'm happy to follow up with any of you later to learn more. And now we don't hear you, Linda.
You knew that I forgot to unmute my mic. I forgot to tell y'all that we will be recording this session. So I just started the recording. I don't usually record our lunch bunches because it's more of a discussion, but I know we've got a lot of folks that want and need information about TextHelp. So Kate, I'm gonna pose the first question, and here is my scenario. I am a middle school social studies teacher, and I have students who are reading 2 to 3 years below grade level. They seem to understand lessons when we have discussion or we watch video, but they really struggle when it comes to anything that I ask them to read independently. And we have an upcoming activity to help them understand the Civil War by evaluating primary documents. So it includes a lot of critical thinking that all of my kids need. How could TextHelp help them with our next unit?
So I think I'm sharing my screen. Let me just double check. Y'all can give me a thumbs up. Okay, great. The way that TextHelp can support students is basically when they open a document. So here I have a sample of, this happens to be an HTML web page. So you can see here the extension is HTML. So what Read and Write does is it works with the things you open on your device, whether it's a PDF, a website, a doc, etc. There are different versions, so it does work with Microsoft Word docs. We do have a Mac version. We do have an iPad version of Read and Write. All of those are included. And so when you think about, students who maybe understand the lessons, and if you think about even the reading and talking process, how my little 2-year-old grandchildren understand the things we're telling them well before they can read or write. So when it comes to students getting passed along, if you will, from grade to grade, maybe their reading and writing is not as caught up to their grade level, then we may have things that they can read partially independently, or they struggle to read independently. So maybe they do well with videos, or in the case of utilizing Read and Write, perhaps they could end up having some of this read aloud to them. So since we're on a web page, we're going to look at the extensions list, and I'm going to click on this purple puzzle piece, which opens the toolbar, and I can move it about to position it on the page however I would like to. And I've got a couple of options for reading aloud. So one would be to highlight and click play.
Before they had to. Children of the Civil War. From the front lines.
I don't know how loud that is for you guys. You're good? Okay, good, Linda. Thanks for the thumbs up. But text-to-speech would be one thing. There is also here a hover speech option, just so that as kids wanted to hover along, it would start. It's also great for these links and things that typically might be difficult for a student to actually highlight and have it read. So hover speech works there. And depending on like this historical scene investigation, that may be a picture, or it could actually be words, but what it's going to read is the name of what is embedded behind this particular image. Or like here in this case, it's not picking up anything, so there may not be a name. So there's a second tool here when you would like things read aloud that may not be reading on a web page. Oops, I don't know why it popped over there. Sorry, guys. Oh, it's giving me an update. Sorry, I had a little glitch, so let me quickly add the screenshot reader. So this is a good time to mention that anytime you want to use Read and Write, and let me, I'll go back a second to show you. There is a second extension for Read and Write called the PDF Viewer. And what it just had me do was go in and add that extension. So when I clicked on the button on the toolbar, it bounced me over to add this extension. What we've done is we have created this so that we can control how we work with things like PDFs and so forth. So this one is called Screenshot Reader, which is a tool on the toolbar. So I just added it, and you can see it is right here. So you have the PDF extension, you have the read and write extension. When I clicked on this button, it reacted like it would if I were a first-time user and asked me to install that. So that's just to, you can see now it's been added to Chrome. So that's just to help make this particular button work. So now to demo the button, when I click it, it's going to allow me to draw a box around this text. It seems to not be thinking I'm on a page for some reason. So normally, I don't know, it's maybe acting up here for a second, but normally I would just draw a box around this text. It would analyze and read on the fly. I'm not sure. Let's look and see if I bounced over to another web page. This is just something that I have open. So you can see there's lots of text on this page that may or may not read. It could be embedded inside of an image. Oops, like there was one. Scroll this up just a bit. There we go. So that is where you can actually, from that read and write toolbar, click the screenshot reader, and then I don't know why it's acting up. So it shouldn't have even asked me to install it. So maybe there's an update going on as we're trying to do this session, and I apologize.
And Kay, I'm going to just tell you that a lot of these, the nice thing about TextHelp is it's kept very current to support the needs of our kids. And a lot of times with extensions like that, you have to close and restart. So we'll
okay.
just move on.
Okay, so it's very simple to use. One thing to note, we do have videos on a YouTube channel where you could watch a video just on the screenshot reader and be able to easily, quickly, like 2, 3, 4 minutes, learn how to use one of the buttons on our toolbar. And notice as I mouse over, it's telling you what these buttons, the name of the button, and a little bit about, you know, what these buttons do. Some of the other supports for these kids might be the dictionary. So if they are reading along and they encounter a word they do not know, they can click on the dictionary definition. Again, these boxes move around. The play button will read aloud the definition. There is a picture dictionary button here as well to help students get a visual of the particular word. You know, should they need it, translate also works. And as you click in or select other words, those auto refresh. So they, you know, kind of instantly update to help the student as they are needing, you know, support. Close them out as you need to close them out. The last tools that I want to show you that would maybe help this type of student would be our highlighters. So we can use these highlighters as a way to do all kinds of things, from selecting the main idea to highlighting words I do not know. So in the example of maybe words I don't know, so we'll just select a few of these words and highlight. We'll do some simple words here just to kind of quickly show you, but we have 4 colors. There's yellow, green, blue, and pink. So I'll just try to get 4 words quickly highlighted. And I want to point out this button is called the Vocabulary List Builder. That's going to pull out these words that may be part of my vocab list. It could be part of the assignment, but it's going to build for me on the fly the word definition, picture from our picture dictionary, and a notes column. This is now a doc, so it can be edited. Teachers could build on this. Students could use it for their own expansion and learning of different vocabulary and so forth. So that is just a button on our toolbar that's working off of these highlighted words. So those are some of the supports I think could help this middle school student.
All right, thank you, Kay. And I think Miss Alma has a question. Alma, if you're talking, you need to unmute your microphone.
Okay, Linda. My question was, if I teach 3rd and 4th grade, the students struggling most in my class are my ESL students when they have something like this to read, they don't have the background to understand some of the language. How could TextHelp help them?
Yes, so we kind of looked briefly at the translator. So currently our translator is single word translation. We are actually expanding this out to be paragraph translation, and our read and write for Windows is paragraph and single word translation as well. Google does, document translation, so we hadn't built the paragraph option, but we are actually about to add that. So the picture dictionary would certainly be a support, like we looked at the word drummer a minute ago. That picture dictionary would give those ESL students the visual that they might need. The translator could give them the definition, here reading in English, and then down below reading in Spanish. Because I've selected Spanish as my translation language.
Okay.
But also, if you have something already translated in, for example, Spanish here, then all you have to do is come to the options and then switch the language to Spanish to get a fully built Spanish version. But under speech, if you switch the voice to the Spanish voice, which we call Paulina, then it actually will read aloud in Spanish, giving the correct enunciation. So for students either in a dual language program or if they are an ESL student who is trying to just come up to speed or acquire the English language, then they can either set it for Spanish, have it in a Spanish version that's just included, or they can translate and so forth and get the supports they need.
Great, thank you.
And so, Kay, the next scenario is a fifth grade science teacher, and I have a hard time getting my struggling students to complete written work. So our classwork might look something like this, where students read something, but oftentimes they'll watch a video model or they'll have an experiment, and then they have to fill out a chart to evaluate the results and share their thinking. So how could TextHelp help those students?
So maybe they have read, something like this particular document as you described, and then maybe we are sharing this particular one is science, and I know we just bounced from a social studies assignment, but I wanted to point out one thing that could happen is that you notice here I have this open with read and write. So sometimes students will see this and all they have to do is click the drop down and select to open with read and write. But again, just as a reminder that the PDF viewer would need to be installed so that the student is able to see and utilize the toolbar on the PDF. Now, the second thing I want to bring up is sometimes PDFs are viewed on the computer as an image, and then sometimes they are viewed as text on the page. So we do support scanning and OCRing documents, whether it's a picture, a PDF. I know a lot of times copiers PDF documents and send them out to the teachers, and they may or may not be an accessible document. So when you have a document that has not been fully OCR'd or made accessible, then Read and Write we have a tool that works through Google Drive called Snapburner that will OCR and convert. And we also have a button on the Windows version, we just call it the scan tool, that you could take this particular PDF, scan it into Word, edit it, and then scan it back as a PDF that's now accessible. So if this were an example of a PDF that were not accessible. So we do work with inaccessible text in helping it make it accessible. So back to your question about a struggling student maybe that is better at watching but then struggles with responding, they actually could use Read and Write toolbar on a document like this. So for example, maybe here's another one where it's a little more linked back to what we're seeing, where, who wrote the document, when was it written, and so forth. So our toolbar, you can see here, is going to interact. And one button I'd like to point out here on the right corner is the add it to the Google Drive. So if I didn't have a copy of this and I wanted a copy, maybe someone shared it with me, or I've run across this on the internet and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Then I can just click to share this to Google Drive, and it, asks me where do I want to share it and so forth. And then I can name it and all that good stuff and organize it, and, but just makes it handy. It's just there as a really easy way for you to be able to take something and add it to Drive. For the student, who wrote the document, one of the tools that we have that works with PDFs is called the typewriter tool, that allows me to come inside this document and type. Now, I've already forgotten the name of, or if I even paid attention earlier to who wrote this, and we might make up a name. I think I clicked on okay, we'll just make up a name for time's sake here. Where is the document I was working on, y'all? Sorry, I've got so many things open right now. There it is. So we'll say it was Mark Smith was the author. Now, I have the ability to play back my answer. So in the case I was writing a short paragraph or some sentences, students do tell us they like that it will read what they wrote. I have the ability to use word prediction, speech input, make that font smaller or larger so it can kind of fit in the box. Change the color if I were, wanting to make it a different color for some reason. And when I'm happy and I click on the check mark, it's in the document. Now, if I needed to align that or edit and add, something to this, then I certainly can do that as well. So the PDF capability is really cool. If I wanted to if I wanted to get rid of that, I'm sorry, I clicked it a little fast. There was a little trash can button there that I meant to hesitate on and not actually click, but it got rid of that easily. So it's very easy to edit as the student might need to. So I think those are a couple of tools. Now, a third tool that might be helpful is over here to the right. Now, we are on a PDF, but when I've selected this Word document and I come over here to the right, I can see what looks like a comments box, but what we have done is actually embedded some tools. Let me slide this kind of out of my way. We've embedded some tools for a student to be able to connect text to that. So for example, let me move some of these things out of my way, y'all. Hang on a second. Okay, so let me cancel this. Let me come back into this document. Let me type back in Mark Smith. And so I'm happy with the words Mark Smith and move that back in there. But now I would maybe like to use the speech input feature. So maybe for here, when it was written, I could come over here and record November 1st, 1960. And when I click on comment, did it not pick it up? There it was. Well, it picked up more than that, so I could turn it back on. So November 1st, 1960, and when I comment, it's going to be connected to the text that I highlighted, so you can see that text there in the box. And when you expand it, it would play this out to read. There are a few other features if I come back inside here. So there's the ability to read and play, but there is the ability to connect to a link or even a picture. Or if I want to get rid of this, I certainly can as well. So maybe those are some tools that would help this particular student.
So, Ms. Kay, let's kind of switch to maybe a literacy class at middle school. And what we often hear is that if I give kids a format like you're showing us on the screen, they do just fine. It's when they have to do a longer piece of like an essay or something where they struggle. How could TextHelp support those students?
So if they had, I'm gonna guess your question is a little more like this, where they're actually searching for clues and maybe they've got all these documents and they're needing to scroll through here. So one of the things that the highlighter tools might help the student with is the ability when they're finding the main idea, and I'll just highlight a little bit of information here for main idea and then maybe supporting ideas. We'll pretend I'm getting these right. Then the student could select some of these ideas and come in here and collect those highlights by color, position, just the main ideas or one color if they want. And then if these were color coordinated with main idea being yellow, supporting ideas being color of your choice, then I could see that a student who struggles to write could actually utilize these highlighters and pull out some of these facts and even get a link back to where they've pulled this information from. So that would be another tool that I think could support the students on helping them. Now, if they were doing something, I know at the bottom of, let me get over there again. Sorry, y'all. Hang on. Nope. Well, I may have closed it out. But at the bottom of the of that chart that I had up, I have too many links open. Let me go back, try one more time. This should be our, there it is. Okay, at the bottom of this particular thing is like a Venn diagram where, you know, the student could also maybe, you know, utilize this Venn diagram in a way to show, you know, the ideas from the document and as a way to overlap, you know, what, depending on the assignment, they're doing a compare contrast in this assignment, so they could compare and contrast and then show the things in the center, of course, that were, you know, unique to both sides. And then, you know, y'all know how Venn diagrams work. That's just another thought of a way that they might use some of the tools we have.
Okay, in tools like that, or like the Google Doc that you just had open, could they actually talk their answers out loud and have it recorded?
Yes. So in the, for example, here on this PDF, the speech input button is here. There's the ability to embed a voice note. So if I wanted my own voice explaining, then I would just be able to click here and record up to 1 minute. That gets embedded inside of this PDF. And when I am done, I can just click on the stop and then comment button, and it's going to embed or attach that to this particular. So I could do 3 of these. I could do the compare on A, compare on B, and then on the C, the overlap. And then the teacher could actually play this back in my voice. If I go back to this is a doc, so we can do it here as well. Then I also have here on my toolbar the speech or the talk and type. So if I'm coming inside this document and I wanted to add to it, comma, then all I have to do is turn on the ability to provide speech input into this document, period, new line. Voice commands work really well, period. So that's just one way of kind of showing some of the supports that that would help that student.
So, Kay, I love all of this, and I have a student that is absolutely brilliant but has some physical disabilities, and the speech is not very intelligible. So we've tried speech to text, that didn't work for him. Is there another solution in TextHelp that might support that kid that, you know, physically is challenged to type a lot and doesn't have intelligible speech?
Yes, so if the student were, we'll use this little document here. So if the student were struggling to get the speech input to pick up their speech, then one thing they can do is use the voice note. So I'm sure the teacher would, you know, be able to understand the student speaking a little bit better. But a second option would be also to turn on the word prediction to help them. So as they start to type, then the word prediction, my highlighters are turned on, but as the word prediction starts, they can mouse over and it will pronounce the word for them. They can click to insert, or they can choose the number. So if they wanted the 4th one, they can do control and the number 4. If they're spelling phonetically, then they could start to spell, and then when they choose the word they want, it replaces their misspelled word with the correctly spelled word. So it works with phonetic spellings very well. This box is kind of moving along the paragraph with me. You can see that as I, bounce across the page, that in the settings can be made to be stationary. So it doesn't have to bounce across the page like it's doing there. It can be stationary if that's a better fit for the student. So they can turn it on and off as they feel like they would like to use that tool.
Fantastic. So we have a couple 504 dyslexia support folks here. And I know one of our biggest need for reading is reading fluency, because as fluency increases, so does comprehension. Does TextHelp have anything that might support reading fluency for our students?
So we actually have a product called Fluency Tutor, and it is included in the Region 11 Collaborative. So if you guys want to learn more about the collaborative, I'm happy to help you understand these offerings. But basically what we've done is responded to an RFP with Region 11, and you are basically able to buy, please don't talk to your friends outside of Region 11, they don't have this option, but Region 11 districts have the option of buying power. So the more districts that buy licenses with us, the cheaper the price gets. That's one benefit. The second benefit is that you also have the ability to buy fewer licenses and get basically the power of district-wide purchasing. So if you think about district buying district-wide, the price gets cheaper. Well, with the Region 11 Collaborative, you can buy fewer than district-wide licenses, but get the power of that price of a district-wide purchase. So I'm happy to talk to you more about that if your district is interested. Back to Fluency Tutor. So what it is an extension that has a repository of 400 to 500 reading passages in it that we have in there. Teachers can share those through Google Drive or Classroom. The student can record themselves reading and share that recording back with the teacher for scoring later. When the teacher is scoring and they select a word, they have the ability to mark that word as a hesitation or an omission or whatever those common reading errors are. But also I think about how that sometimes the teacher might like to listen to that again, and this recording gives them that option. It also helps the student who is sitting in front of the teacher, and as soon as they see them write something, they know they might have messed up, so it throws the student off. And then by the time that happens 3 or 4 times, the student is probably feeling quite frustrated. So to come back to this particular HTML document, we have reading passages, but one of the things that you can do is when you find text online that you would like to share, or it could be in a Google Doc, you can select that text and then click on this Fluency Tutor icon, and it pulls out that text and pulls it into Fluency Tutor in a way that you can share it. So you can see here, I'm going to be sharing with Fluency Tutor. I'm in the teacher view. It pulls in the name of whatever I had. If I'm at the district level, I could share these with the entire domain. I have some tools that it pulls in that could be utilized that are the read and write tools like dictionary, picture dictionary, and translate. And I can go to a preview mode even and preview what this would look like. But when I share it, it's basically the ability just to share by the share passage by Classroom or by Google Drive. If I wanted to just go to, let me bounce out of this passage. If I can, it's kind of forcing me into there we go. So if I wanted to come in and share a passage, and you can see there was the list of kids, but basically you can filter these and sort them by reading level or Lexile. And once you select a particular passage, we have comprehension questions built in that you can share every time with the student. But you can preview the passage, and then when you go to share the passage, it asks, oops, I didn't click the right thing. So when you go, let me go back into this. So when you share the passage, the students, after they finish their recording, they would be forced to answer the comprehension questions. But here you can see sharing it with Google Drive or with Classroom. And in the settings, you can require students to answer the comprehension questions so they pop up at the end of the recording for the student. So real brief fluency tutor, but I think it would be a great asset to help those students with dyslexia and they can also play that recording back and hear themselves read as well.
Kay, these are awesome tools, and we've heard from teachers on campuses who love all of our digital tools and then follow up with, but my administrator. And my administrator is all about the STAR test, and everything that we do has to be aligned to the STAR test. So if kids are using these tools, how is that going to help them on the STAR test?
So, you know, the STAR requires that if the student is going to have an accommodation that's allowed during the online test, then they must be using these tools throughout the year for instructional support or intent. So they have to be made available to any student who regularly benefits for the use of them during instruction is what I'm trying to say here. So if we bounced over to, I think I've got here, let me figure out where I'm at. I have a STAR thing open because I anticipated we might talk about STAR a little bit. But here is this one's an algebra. I think I have, let's see what this is. That one's math. Here's reading. Okay, sorry y'all. So here is a reading assessment that's just been opened from TEA's website, and I believe we've got 3rd grade reading here from 2016. It's a release test. So you all know that when TEA gives students this, you know, you see some of the highlighters work here, like I showed earlier. But one of the things that we got from Texas as a request was that, you know, when they get this test and they're working online, the instructions will read, but the actual reading part will not read. One of the things that we added, and I don't have it on my toolbar, but we do have a 2-minute video to show you how simple this is. If you're sharing this through Google Classroom, there would be a button right here to the right, and that would be called Block Text Allowed. It works like a highlighter, so that you click that button, we'll imagine it's here on the right end. And then if you want the instructions to read, you leave it alone, but then you start highlighting all the stuff that you don't want read. And when the teacher sees this, it's got like a strike-through view, but when the student gets it shared with them through Google Classroom, the strike-through is not there, it just will not read aloud. So that's one way that the student can get kind of that STAR experience before the test. Some other ways that we've tried to work and support Texas teachers, and I have to tell you, our company sells all over the world, but they are being very responsive to just Texas and what we need. So one of the things that we are working on that's been requested is the ability to lock down your tools and your toolbar so kids don't have access to everything. That's about to be released, so it's coming very soon. The next thing is the ability to work offline. So when students are writing, and 2 of the supports for writing that are not included in STAR, at least up last year and before, I don't know what's planned for this year, but were word prediction and speech input. So students were not allowed to be, you know, online during the test. You know, they had to be locked in. So what districts were doing was, you know, trying to find a solution for allowing students to have those 2 supports that were not built into the test. We've had Read and Write for Windows out for several years that does have those 2 supports, and it does work offline. Our licensing model comes with school and home access, so students can load the software onto a personal device. And if they don't have internet at home, they could use Read and Write for Windows at home without the internet. But for STAR testing, to kind of model what they might have or to allow them to use during the test, we are building the ability for Read and Write for Google to work on a Chromebook in kiosk mode. So this is something that is allowed by TEA. Your tech team would understand what that means to be able to put that Chromebook in kiosk mode and have the Read and Write toolbar there. And then with this new data desk that we're rolling out, the teacher could have just those 2 supports on that toolbar. The student would not necessarily see all of the supports that are available. They may just need to see a couple of supports. So those are a couple things. Let me add one more, and that is when the student is in the online test and they see a word like we see here with speechless, it comes out from TEA as an underline. I believe I've been told, because I've not seen the star myself, but I've been told this is like a dash line or something, but whatever. The student, when they mouse over, they would get some kind of pop-up support, and these are considered vocabulary assistance, I believe. But the idea is, how do you mimic this or give the student a similar experience using read and write? So if I select this word, speechless, then one of the things that the company did for Texas was built in the ability to add an image or add a link to more information, or even type a definition. You can use word prediction, you could use a voice note, but you could also talk and type the definition here. Inability to speak. So I don't know that that's the definition you'd want to use, but we'll pretend it is for today. That word gets slightly tinted just to bring attention to it. So it's a great way to kind of practice and bring attention. And then when the student comes over to this comments box that's attached, there is a play button where it would read aloud if they needed it to. But also if that were an image, they would be able to see the image or the link to more information. So I think, you know, all in all, we try to do things to support Texas. We try to support the requirements of TEA and help you all so that during the school year, as you're, you know, students are using these tools instructionally, what we hear is when students get to STAR, they say, oh, this is like read and write. So I do feel like that there is that connection from our tools to what they do experience on the state STAR test.
And our final question might be from a math teacher who says, I get how TextHelp tools can support, you know, reading the word problems, but is there something that TextHelp offers that might support math, higher level math work?
Yes, absolutely. So we have launched Equatio, which is the third tool that is in the Region 11 collaborative offering. And with Equatio, if I just bounce back over and let me just go get a new blank doc, it is an extension. It's this teal diamond-shaped extension that works with math. And when I click that to launch it, it's going to pop at the bottom of my screen the Equatio toolbar. So some of the things that are easy enough to do, like here, the equation editor allows me to start typing. So maybe I want to do a number like 2 squared. It's got prediction built in. So I can start to type, you know, whatever problem, 2 squared plus, but if I don't want to use the plus symbol on the keyboard, I can start typing PL, and I've got the plus. If I, you know, one of the things for elementary teachers is that times with the dot. So, you know, they just really, there's no way to do a divided by symbol or the dot on the keyboard and line it up in the proper way with the number. So we've tried to make this what we're calling math and science digital, so that when a student goes into math or science class, they don't have to put away that technology device, but they are able to interact with the math or science in a way that helps them continue utilizing the technology your districts have purchased, as well as being able to respond. Because if you think about, you know, as we all go through our education training, students may be auditory learners or verbal learners or visual learners, and this tool has all of those capabilities built in. Math in the past, or math and science, you know, to the large part, has been more of an on paper response, especially math, where, you know, we didn't do science experiments, of course, or a hands-on do, but for math, they're writing and they're having to understand. But with Equatio, what we're trying to do here is give them the support so that they can respond in the way they want to respond. So let's just do 2 squared times 5 equals, and I can easily insert that math into this doc. It works across the G Suite. It works with Microsoft Word. And now I have that particular problem. If I am a auditory learner, then I can turn on speech input. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Notice on the left, it did have what I said, but on the right is where it's building the math. Again, I can come in here and then insert that math into my document. The screen writing, if they have a touch screen, then they can come into this screen and they can, sorry, I'm having to use my finger here. And you can see, so some of this was wrong. So let me get rid of it, and I can edit or whatever I had. I don't know, I had 3x, but I have the ability there to edit, and I'd left up the other problem and forgot to delete it. So it was adding the two together and it got confused. But I have that ability to use handwriting recognition, and it converts that to text. So sometimes you have students who have touchscreen devices. Just to quickly give you a couple other pointers about Equatio, we built Equatio Mobile to allow an iPad or an iPhone to be able to capture text from a page and insert it into this document to make that editable. And one of the things, since we are an AT team that's on the call today, the screenshot reader is really, really powerful. So let me just show you real quickly. If you had a, let's see what this one is. So here is a release test from Algebra 1 for STAR. And maybe as a teacher, you know, I'd like to grab some of this and not have to retype it. But with that prediction here, like slope of the line, and I don't remember which page we were on doing this. Here we are. If I go back to this equation editor and I start to type, you know, slope, then look, here is that formula. So we've done prediction for formulas as well, and the plan is to build this out even more powerfully. If I come back and scroll down just a little bit more to see some of the sample problems that students have, you know, here, maybe I would like to, you know, recreate this. This one might not be as difficult for a teacher to try to grab, but if I open the Equatio extension.
Hey, Kate, I'm going to pause you while you're right there because we did have a really great question from Melissa. She said, so for a problem like that, will Equatio read that math problem starting with which expression is equivalent to, just like read and write will?
Okay, good question. So the answer is the math part of it today, it's reading. So let me show you that real quick. So when I use the screenshot reader to grab this math, the first thing it's going to do is read it.
X squared plus 35x.
So I don't know if y'all heard that. It's reading from my computer. It's a little bit quiet, but it is reading it. If I had grabbed the entire question today, it's not reading the entire question. However, it would have read if this were in read and write and the equation were built with Equatio. But plans going forward are to build this screenshot reader to read the English words and the math expression all together. They did demo that for us last week, so they are very close to releasing that capability. And that may be what you're wanting to know is it, you know, built into the one tool. So that is the goal. Equatio's a little over a year old, not quite a year and a half old product. So the leaps and bounds that they have, product development has enhanced this and listened to feedback. When we first released it, it did nothing for science, and science teachers were like, hey. So it's really exciting to see all of the things that they're building in. Now, I want to show you before we leave this. So I've captured this with the screenshot reader where it read aloud, but the 3 ellipses in the middle allows me to copy the LaTeX, which is the math language, or, and I'm not sure if this is in your way, but it's in mine, or I can just click on straight to edit with Equatio. Now I could do this from a web page. I could pause a video that had some math on it. I could do this from there. But when I click on either copy LaTeX or edit with Equatio, it popped that problem into Equatio that now I could edit it, I could continue working with it, I could show my work as a student. So I could grab that off that PDF as a student and continue to show my understanding and solve the problem. Because one of the things that we see is that students, let me close Equatio so I can get back to here. Students, you know, I might choose G and I might be correct, but I might not tell you one thing about why I chose G, versus they could start to show their work and actually show, the teacher could then see where the mistakes were and where their thought process went awry, if you will. So for students that are struggling to, you know, understand, you've got terminology for math, you've got the expression. So if you're talking about squared and the little 2 goes high up, then you've got the actual, what does this mean in concept? So you've got quite a few things that are coming together for the student. And the goal here is to make this where it helps them to understand the math, respond to the math, use the technology, you know, get excited about math, and then become, you know, STEM career participants down the road.
Okay, I want to thank you so much for your time today and open it up to see if we have any additional questions that anybody wants to unmute and ask. I do, and I'll keep talking for just a minute. Remind you of the AT website that we have available with resources that Kay has reviewed and made sure. TextHelp is available on, Kay, correct me when I'm wrong, it is available in Microsoft products. So if your students use a PC, they can download it. If they use a Chromebook or device where they're using Google Chrome, it can be installed. It is also available on an iPad. Is there anything I missed?
No, so if they're using a laptop, just to clarify, if they're using a laptop in your district and you are Google district, they can use the Google version on the laptop. It doesn't have to be used on just a Chromebook. But if your district does not use Google, then we do have the Windows and Mac versions. We also have an Office 365 version for those districts that do not use Google per se. So we feel like we've got most all of the bases covered. We've got an iPad and Android app as well for read and write. For Equatio, it's Word across the entire G Suite. Fluency Tutor is an only Google product, so it would be Google only, but other than that, for Equatio, we try to cross platforms and provide something that meets the needs of our customer base.
And then one of the other things I'd like to point out is that there is a free version of some of the TextHelp tools. What we saw today are the paid versions. And if you want to trial those out, the paid versions are free for educators across the state of Texas. And if you need information on that, let us know. And then the paid versions are also free for student demo for the first 30 days. So if you have a student and you think, gosh, I wonder if these tools will help them, you can install the full version and that student can actually try these out and see if these are tools that work for the student. Okay, can you tell us which of the buttons are available on just the free version?
So when students do download the extension, if they're trialing it, they get 30 days with everything that you've been seeing on the toolbar. But after 30 days for students, the toolbar will gray out. So if we look here at my toolbar, and the buttons they keep are like the play, stop, translate only. So highlighters, the typewriter tool, some of these other buttons would not be available to the student after 30 days.
So the free version, they can do the text-to-speech, and they can use the translator, correct?
Yes.
And then Google has a built-in speech-to-text if that was an issue for kids. And then Melissa had another really great question. If I'm not somebody who uses Google Classroom, where would Fluency Tutor store those recordings or the pieces of text?
So there is a folder in Google Drive. That's an excellent question, by the way, Melissa. But there's a folder in Google Drive where the recordings are stored. And with Fluency Tutor, there is a free premium as well. So they can share our passages for free. The student can record and share the recording back for free. Then the difference is, if you think of the running record process, that's part of the premium, where you mark the 1 minute measure, you get a score. You can mark the kinds of errors, see progress over time. That's part of premium. So but the recordings outside of classroom are stored in a folder in Drive.
And then the last tool, and I know I've seen it before, and I saw it with you yesterday, or actually it was 2 days ago, is called RIQ, and that's currently free in beta testing. Is that correct?
Well, so RIQ is actually free, and we have an add-on. So let me go back to, let me find that document where we had some text on it. Goodness.
And y'all, I like to honor your time, and it is 12:30, but if you are a writing teacher for scoring writing, this was huge. So I do understand if you need to duck out, but anybody that's looking at writing and scoring writing, this is going to be huge for your teachers.
Wow. Okay, so I'm not finding a very good example. Was this an example? No. Okay, we'll try Spanish, but this will work. So RIQ will grade writing, just to quickly, if you're trying to figure out if you're staying on or not. What we did was initially build it as an add-on. So you just go into a Google Doc, to add-ons, then get add-ons, and it's RIQ. So since I already have it installed, I can click Show RIQ. And just to give you a really quick brief demo, today the add-on is free, and what we're doing is we're building out into an extension. The extension is in beta, but it will do much more. So today, when I click on Show RIQ, and this may think everything is since it's in Spanish, because I'm not sure they've built it for English, but I can choose the grade level, and I can also choose the genre of the writing. This should pop here down in a second as it loads. And I could choose narrative, informative, or opinion. I've been told that these is going to align to a rubric, and that the rubric is very, very star-like. So basically, then when I score the document, it will highlight words for color coding, spelling, grammar, punctuation. And then I get a rubric where I just go through the rubric, click, 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 and the teacher is done. So we've heard it's very star-like. We've also heard from an AP teacher who graded an essay on her own, let RIQ grade an essay, and came back and taught her whole district to use RIQ because it was so spot on. She was so excited about using it as a support. Where we're going with this as an extension, I'm sure there'll be a free premium type setup like we've had with our other tools, but they're building out the analytics and the rubrics for you to customize a rubric, have your own version. You could compare fourth grade scores across teachers, across schools in your district, or across the state of Texas. If you think about reading and the research that's there for the reading and what the reading process looks like, we are building the research behind what good writing looks like, because that really does not exist. And already our data set is much stronger than what exists for reading. So it's pretty exciting where we're going to when we build the extension that'll be out later this year. But for now, you can use RIQ as an add-on for free.
And we had another really great question from Ms. Kimberly. Will RIQ grade an uploaded handwritten document?
It's written for text. So today, I don't think so. I don't know about down the road if it would be able to analyze. You know, we've got the analyze written text thing going on with Equatio. So I'm not going to say we would never build that. But one of the things that we do as a company is respond to customer feedback and requests. And you can see here in the bottom of the RIQ screen, there is a send feedback to us that goes straight over to product development. So when you see an idea or something that you would like to learn about, you know, feel free to click the feedback buttons. We've got them in all of our products. And we take, just like I said, how they've responded so well to Texas, they take customer feedback and actually enhance. And a lot of the things I've shown you were put there for Texas. So for a company that sells worldwide, it's really exciting to know they're responding to one state.
So, okay, this is off script, but I'm going to do a yes, but, and. I wonder, does SnapBirder recognize handwritten text when it does the OCR?
I don't think it does, honestly. I've actually never tried it with handwritten text. You know,
You can try it.
the way that OCR tools typically work is the back end behind any letter or character is a series of zeros and ones. With handwritten text, you would not have that. It's going to see it more as an image, but certainly you feel free to try SnapBirder out and see if it does. It might depend on, but my feeling is it's probably going to view that handwritten part as an image and might not be able to pick up that back end technology, those 0 and 1 combinations, to actually analyze and convert that to the proper text.
So it's worth a try, but we're doubting that. And then Melissa asked, is there time to touch on Audio Maker?
She's talking about the tool. Melissa, I believe you're talking about the tool on the Windows version, Audio Maker.
And Melissa, yeah, feel free to unmute Melissa or type in the chat.
Oh, there it is. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank for a second. I'm so sorry. So Audio Maker is a way to take text and convert that to an audio file. So if I select some text from here, again, this is Spanish, but I can just come over to this particular button after I've highlighted it, click the button. You can see there's a progress bar and it starts to build the audio file for me. And I'm able to then have an MP3 saved to my device. So my downloads are going in this lower left-hand corner, but then I could just hit play and it would read that aloud. So Audio Maker is a really good support for those students who are auditory learners, maybe your population of students who do better to hear it than read it, or they're struggling readers, or they're dyslexia students who need some additional support. So Audio Maker is a great tool for those students. I didn't mention Check It, which is a new button we have. We are doing spelling and grammar checking with it. So I don't want to take any more of your time, but play with that button or get with me if you'd like to learn more about Check It.
So then the closing thing I'm going to say is the yes but about TextHelp tools that I've heard is, well, I can get those tools all for free. And I think some of the celebrations of TextHelp tools is, yes, you could, but you would spend a lot of research looking for those tools. This is one-stop shopping for kids to have access to the tools at their fingertips in an easy way in a place where they're working. And that's what makes TextHelp a great suite of resources that support the needs of students, and it mirrors what the online text tools look like. So anything else you want to add to that, Kay?
Yeah, I would say not only is it a one-stop shop, but for students, it's a bit confusing sometimes to know which one of those other tools are open to use. But also when you have multiple things that are installed on a device, there could be conflicts where they don't really perform optimally with each other because there's some kind of conflict with the technology or something that happens. So, if you're having issues and you're like, well, we can't seem to get that one to work or whatever, sometimes it's about all the things that are loaded on a computer that cause issues. So what we have, everything on that toolbar interacts and works extremely well together to be in one place. And that is one of the great feedbacks we get, is that they like that it's all there in a concise manner. If it's a lot of tools and you want to shorten the toolbar, you can come into options, into features, and then just by a click, notice that Check It is now missing from my toolbar here on the left side, and I can just click to turn it back on. and edit my toolbar to reduce if there were a lot of buttons for you to want to start working with a younger grade student, for example.
All right, thank y'all so much for being here. Kay, again, thank you for all the information, and I want to give another shout out to Kay. Y'all, she is very responsive via email, so if you have specific questions, you need specific support on what's available, please feel free to reach out to Kay directly. Reach out to me. I'm willing to come out to the district and hang out with a couple kids, and we can turn on TextHelp and see what we can, the supports that we can provide that your kids need. So y'all have a great afternoon. Any last comments before we end our meeting?
Just that if you would like information on the pricing with this Region 11 collaborative that we have going on, feel free to reach out to me. The cutoff for the tiers, so as I said, as the volume purchasing happens, Region 11 is collecting commitments. You can go through them if that helps your district in any way. You can also come directly to me, and either way, you're going to get the lowest tier pricing. But we're collecting all of the commitments from districts, and we're kind of like locking in the tier pricing at the end of October. And then in May, we'll revisit for next year. So just in case you were worried about it, you know, more people come on later, it's going to get cheaper later. We're trying to protect those who are early adopters and make sure that they get the same benefit as everyone else. So here's my contact info, and if I can help you in any way, please let me know.
All right, thanks y'all. Have a great week and look forward to our next set of updates.
Thanks for having me, Linda.
Thanks, Kay. All right, bye y'all.